Hi, I'm Tequila Friday. I'm with the Prairie Quills Writers Group, and today we continue with part 2 of Irene Bingham's interview.
What would you say is your greatest success in writing?
I like my short stories myself. I would like to get more ABC stories on Amazon to see how they work out. And I'd like to see the novel finished. So it's quite an accomplishment to go from a short story to a novel. And I think that I'm very excited about is looking to see a novel.
What inspires you?
It can be anything. It can be something so simple as a memory of something that I did when I was a child. And I seem to like to write a lot about when I was young. Different stories, my first pony, my breaking my first horse to ride, things that I did with my grandparents, things that I did with my mom and my dad and my brothers. Sometimes it's just a picture that you see as something that recalls something that you think that's very important. I have a picture of my grandmother standing beside a rain barrel, and I wrote a short story about that, and I wrote it from the point of the view of the water being in the rain barrel and what it was used for and what happened to it in the whole end when it was taken out after Grandma was done with the water and thrown under the gooseberry bush. So it can be just little things that trigger something.
Irene, you belong to the Prairie Quills Writers Group. Tell us at least two of the benefits of belonging to the group.
Number one, you learn to meet deadlines when you belong to the group. And I think that's exciting, especially when we do our anthologies.
And deadlines are so very important, especially if you want to work toward being published, correct?
Correct. And the other thing I like to do is we can share our work with other people and we can get feedback to know whether we're improving in our stories or improving in our writing. And I think that's important to be with the group. And when you write, say as a group we all write on the same topic, it's so amazing how many different views you can get from one story.
Speaking of views, can you tell us about your piece in the Prairie Quills' latest anthology, Reflections from the Creek?
My story for Reflections from the Creek is one of a Christmas story. Again, it is from my childhood. When I was 7 years old, I attended the Swift Current Lyric Theatre with two older cousins and a cousin my age, and we were given treats by Santa Claus outside the theatre when he was in a green sleigh, and his sleigh was driven by reindeer. And the surprise was I was one of the most fortunate. I did get my candy, which I would have to share with my brother Ivan, but while we were standing there waiting for my mother to meet us, the reindeer got frightened and ran away with Santa, and they went up Central Avenue so fast, and when they topped the hill, to me, the reindeer looked like they were flying. So that was my story, was about the reindeer when they ran away. It also is a very emotional story to me because it also tells the story about how we cared for the elderly as my dad's dad lived with us at least 3 months of every year from the year 1940, and of course I wasn't born till well, I'll keep that a secret. And it's interesting to know how things were done. And he was blind, so it was a very trying time for all of us when he was there. And that's why I wrote the story. It was because he had a son that lived and worked in Swift-Current as well. So it's a story, it's really a historical story for me as well as for Swift-Current.
What advice would you give a novice writer?
The advice I'd give a novice writer is to take some time and write every day. Also, put on your best clothes or something that encourages or makes you feel creative. When I was finishing my novel, I had a very colorful blazer that I wore, and I used to come home from work when I worked early in the morning and start work. I would have a quick shower and change into the outfit that I wanted to write with, and I could write for 2 or 3 hours and just thoroughly enjoy myself in the mood.
What are you working on next?
The 2 stories I'm working on, the one story that I'm working on next for sure is doing a historical rewrite for the Redcoat Trail for my older 4-H leader. And I would like to try and finish my 2 novels that I have working on. One is called Teal Blue Shoes, and this is referencing the Native women that have been murdered or disappeared over the years. And the story that I have is basically based on a true story of a murdered person in Lake Larange is where the story is going to take place. And the second story novel that I would like to get finished is my one called Black Jack and Blue Bell. And this is a story about a young teacher that has come out to Saskatchewan to teach, but finds her way always blocked and she can't get a job as a teacher, so she ends up she works for a doctor and becomes very, very well educated in medical things. And she sort of tours around and helps people throughout the communities where she lives. And each time she gets going, there's always a little disaster that meets her and she has to face it. So that's the 2 projects that I really would like to work on.
I'm Tequila Friday with the Prairie Quills Writers Group. This wraps up our interview with Irene Bingham, who is president of the Prairie Quills. Please stay tuned as Irene shares an excerpt from her murder mystery novel.